Hello everyone, I'm Alex Dykes, and on today's Alex and Auto segment, we're taking a look at the all-new 2015 Chrysler 200. Now let's be perfectly honest, the last Chrysler 200 sold mostly because it was cheap. There wasn't a whole lot else to like about the vehicle other than the fact that the price was low and it had a very good V6 engine under the hood. This Chrysler 200, however, is a completely different story. Now, because this midsize sedan segment is incredibly crowded, I won't be talking about every entry. It's just not possible. So I'll be limiting the comparisons to the top 5 entries in this segment: the Toyota Camry, the Honda Accord, the Nissan Altima, Ford Fusion, and Hyundai Sonata. Now, the first thing you'll notice on the outside of the 200 is that this is not the Chrysler 300's Mini-Me. And somehow I find that a little bit disappointing. Let me know what you think down there in the comments section down below. I think that it's overall an attractive design, but I can't get past the fact that I was really hoping for a smaller version of the very bold and very brash Chrysler 300. There are a few different trim lines depending on which model you get. The base model doesn't get the extra chrome trim we have on this particular model, and the S model gets a blacked out front end to be a little bit sportier. Base models come standard with reflector headlamps, and almost every other trim of the 200 gets standard projection headlamps. Since we're in the top-end Chrysler 200C, we get xenon projector headlamps, which are fairly unique in this segment. Our model also has this attractive LED daytime running lamp strip running right across the headlamp right here. Because we're in the top-end model, we have parking sensors and radar cruise control. That's what this sensor is right down here. Overall, this style is a severe departure from what we've seen from Chrysler, so again, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. At 192 inches long, the 200 is now one of the longest entries in this segment. It's longer than all 5 of the top entries in this segment, and it's actually only 2 inches shorter than a Toyota Avalon. If you're comparing this against the Chrysler 300, this is nearly 6 inches shorter overall. Overall, this is a very different design than the big brother Chrysler 300. Instead of that very flat front end, we have this very tapering front end. And right back here we have this very coupe-like profile. This is very similar to what you see in the Ford Fusion. Right after the front doors we have this roofline that drops really rapidly right back there towards the trunk. Now, while this is very attractive, it does severely cut in on rear headroom, which is something that we'll talk about in a bit. This is something that you don't see in entries like the Camry or the Accord. The Camry and the Accord have a very upright profile right here. The roofline is significantly higher right back here, and then they have a much more exaggerated traditional rear window design. While some people think that that looks a little bit old-fashioned, it does result in much more interior room for the rear passengers. While I'm still not sure about the design on the front end of the 200, I think the rear end is very attractive. We have this trunk lid that also has sort of an integrated spoiler. The sheet metal actually lifts up towards the rear, giving you that same sort of spoiler effect on the rear of the vehicle without a separate module glued onto the back. We have the attractive Chrysler winged logo right there, very well integrated parking sensors on our particular model, and these attractive tail lamps that wrap from the side all the way onto the trunk lid. Now, most models of the 200 do have these integrated exhaust tips right here, so the real exhaust tip is actually behind the bumper, and this chrome bit is part of the bumper cover itself. When it comes to exterior style, I give this 8 out of 10 points. I was toying with 7 out of 10 points, but I had to choose between what I thought the 200 should look like in my head and what the 200 actually looks like in person. I was a little bit disappointed that this doesn't look like a Chrysler 300's Mini-Me, so let me know what you think down there in the comments section down below. It definitely has its own style. I think it's overall an attractive style. It's definitely not offensive in any regard, but I am a little bit disappointed that it doesn't have that same bold, brash front end as the Chrysler 300. Unlike some of the other entries in this segment, Chrysler has retained a 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder naturally aspirated lineup. Things start out with a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine. It produces 184 horsepower and 173 pound-feet of torque. We then have this 3.6-liter engine right here. I'll take off the cover so you can see it. It produces 295 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. This is the same Pentastar V6 engine that also powers the Chrysler 300, as well as a variety of other Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram models. Now, the only transmission on offer is a ZF-designed 9-speed automatic transmission. Yep, you heard that right, 9-speed automatic. That's 50% more gears than any of the other entries in this segment. Now, if you're not familiar with ZF, ZF is the same company that designs all the high-end luxury transmissions, so you'll find ZF transmissions in things from Rolls-Royce to Bentley models, Audi models, BMW, etc. Now, aside from the fact that this is the world's first 9-speed automatic transmission, what's interesting about the ZF-designed automatic is that this has 4 overdrive gears. So gear 9, 8, 7, and 6 are all over 1-to-1, which seriously improves highway fuel economy, especially at higher speeds. ZF of Germany claims that over 80 miles an hour, fuel economy in their ZF 9-speed equipped vehicles is about 15 to 20% higher. And that's definitely something that I've noticed in this Chrysler 200, even with the V6. Fuel economy comes in at 23 miles per gallon city for the 2.4 liter model, 36 highway, and combined 28 miles per gallon. Fuel economy in the 3.6 liter model comes in at 19 miles per gallon city, 32 highway, and 23 combined, but it will really vary depending on what your commute looks like. If your commute is highway heavy or mountain highway heavy like mine is, I've actually been averaging 27 miles per gallon, but if your commute is very city heavy, then you will definitely be down there towards the 19 mile per gallon figure. If you add all-wheel drive to this engine, then your fuel economy drops down to 18 miles per gallon city, 29 highway, and 22 combined. Front seat comfort comes in at 8 out of 10 points. We get a standard 6-way manual driver's seat adjustment. Our particular model, however, has the top-end power 12-way adjustment, but we don't have a 2-position memory in our particular model. That is an option in the 200. We also have a tilt telescopic steering column with a decent range of motion. Now, I think that the Accord and the Ultima seats are a little bit more comfortable than this particular vehicle, but this is definitely above the pack. One thing to keep in mind is that regardless of what you do, the passenger seat doesn't have the same range of motion as the driver's seat. So in our particular model, the passenger seat is lacking the 4-way adjustable lumbar support that we have right over here on the driver's side. Now, the 4-way adjustable lumbar support is a very unique feature in this segment. It goes up and down and in and out, so it can definitely adjust to various postures as well as various heights of drivers. When it comes to rear seat comfort, I have to give this 6 out of 10 points. Even though right over here on the passenger side I had a 6-foot person sitting in the front seat, I do have about 3 inches of legroom left there. The reason for the lower score is because of the headroom right back here. It's all because of the sexy profile that you find in the 200 as well as the Ford Fusion. I have to cock my head to one side in order to sit upright, and we're in a model without the sunroof. Now, if I move over to the middle seat, things actually improve just a little bit because the center seat isn't high up on a hump like it is in some vehicles, and the ceiling is a little bit higher right here in the middle. However, my head is definitely still touching on the ceiling. If I move right behind myself in the driver's seat, you can see that I have about 3.5 inches of legroom left there, but I still have the same headroom issue. Rear seat passengers do have a softly padded center armrest with a storage cubby and 2 large cup holders, and the rear seat backs do fold almost completely flat in a 60-40 folding fashion. However, they're not completely flat with the trunk. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. The trunk is quite large in the 200. It's about 16 cubic feet, which is a little bit larger than everybody else in this segment, and that means that the rear seats are just a little bit higher off the ground than that. Let's take a quick spin around the interior. As you can see, that roofline definitely drops sharply as you go towards the rear of the vehicle. That's why we didn't have as much headroom right back there in the back seat. You'll also know that we have a very large C and D pillar in this vehicle right back there. We do have a little window between the two to help improve visibility, but overall rearward visibility is a little bit worse in this vehicle than your average entry in this segment. That's also caused by this large and thick B pillar right here. That's the one between the front and the rear doors. The driver and the front passenger have height adjustable seatbelts, and we have 2-way adjustable headrests. As we go around the interior, keep in mind that we are in the top end trim, which is the Chrysler 200C. The 200S and Limited get a slightly different interior, and the base model gets yet another interior. So there are 3 different variants of the interior plastics going on in the 200C. Obviously, they get better as you get up towards the more expensive models. Since we're in the 200C, we have these soft leather seats for both the front and the rear passengers, and as you can see, we have a definite side bolster going on right there to help give you some extra grip in the corners. Moving on over to the door panels, we have a large percentage of soft touch plastics in our 200C model. The upper portion of the door is all soft touch plastic, so is this middle section of the door right there, and we have a large and softly padded armrest right down there. You will find hard plastics right around this side of the door, along the bottom in the storage cubby. We also have a little bottle holder right over there on the door, and then hard plastics again right here behind. On the 200C, there is an available package that will give you real wood trim and a 2-tone interior, and that real wood trim goes right over here to the door panels. This particular model does not have that option, so this is imitation wood on the 200C that we're looking at right here. If we move on over to the dashboard, we do have a very large glove compartment. We have one small shelf here, a pen holder, and you can see how far I can reach my hand down there into the glove box. It was very easy to fit small laptop computers in there. Here's the instruction manual. You can see you can very easily insert it that way. It's not terribly tall. It's only about as tall as my hand is right there like that, but it is very deep. In the passenger's footwell, we have an auxiliary 12-volt power outlet right here, and you can see this opening to the under center console storage area. This under console storage area is very reminiscent of Volvo and Lincoln, which I think is a good thing to be reminded of in a mass market sedan. Right up here we have the skyline of Detroit, which is kind of a little Easter egg that Chrysler has put in the car. This mat is removable. There's a little tab right back here. You can remove it for easier cleaning. And there's also a USB pass-through from the armrest, so that way you can put your phone or your iWidgets right there into the center console. Moving over to the center of the dashboard, our particular model has this large 8-inch Uconnect LCD touchscreen infotainment and navigation system. If you want to know more about Uconnect, then go ahead and click that banner at the bottom of your screen. You'll be taken on over to Uconnect in a different Chrysler branded vehicle. I don't have a video on this exact system, but it does operate basically the same way as all the other Chrysler products. You can see more of this fake wood trim in our particular model wrapping right around here. Again, you can get real wood trim with that premium option in the 200C. Now that real wood trim is a very unique option in this mass market mid-size sedan segment. To my knowledge, it is the only model in this segment that does have the option of real wood trim. In fact, vehicles like Acura and Buick don't even have optional real wood trim in the vast majority of their models. The upper portion of the dashboard is a soft touch injection molded model. Our particular vehicle has a center channel speaker right up here above the Uconnect system. That's because we have the optional Alpine sound system in this model. It is a very good sound system, however, I think it is tuned a little heavy on the bass side. Right down here we have the collision warning disable button, lane departure warning and lane departure prevention disable button, hazard lights, parking sensor off, and this is the autonomous parking button. This vehicle does have optional autonomous parking for both parallel and perpendicular parking. The perpendicular parking option will back the car into a parking space for you. To the left of the Uconnect screen, we have our keyless go start-stop button right over there. This is what the key looks like in the Chrysler 200. We have lock, unlock, trunk open, remote start, and panic. Below the Uconnect screen, we find this sort of horizontal button bank. It's pointing almost towards the ceiling. It's at a slight angle in the dash. Right under that is where we have that under center console storage area. This is where you'll find controls for the Uconnect system as well as the climate control. We have volume, power, and mute right there, screen off, traction control off. We have a back button for the Uconnect screen, tune and scroll right over there. With that knob, you push down to enter. AC, recirculation, climate control buttons in general right over here. A lot of climate control functions are controlled via the Uconnect screen, and that's also where you'll find things like the optional heated steering wheel as well as the heated front seats. Now down here we have the Chrysler Rotary shifter. This reminds me of the Jaguar Rotary shifter. You rotate around to drive, rotate all the way back around to park. If you're in drive, you press down and then rotate around for sport mode. We also have an electronic parking brake right here. Now the reason for the electric parking brake is because if you put this vehicle in park, it will automatically engage the parking brake. If you put it in drive and you have the driver's seatbelt on and you press on the gas, it will automatically disengage the parking brake. So it does make it a little bit handier. Now unlike the Jaguar system, if this vehicle is in drive and you turn off the engine, it will not automatically park itself, so you do have to rotate it around to park first. Now moving down the center console, we have this armrest that does shift forwards and backwards. It is nicely padded as well. It opens to reveal a large and deep storage well right there. You can almost fit a gallon of milk right inside there. Now we have two very large cup holders in this section right up here. We also have sort of a wallet or other widget holder right next to it. An interesting thing about the Chrysler 200 center console is that this does slide forward and backward to allow you access to a second large compartment right up here up front. You can set this in several different sliding motions right there. There's also a little bit of a gap right here, so you can have USB cables right there without damaging them. And there's also a gap right back here between this and the lid, so you can also have USB cables come out right there. And the center console is actually connected, so you can actually go right through from either side right under this cup holder. Opening the cup holder in this front section reveals the auxiliary input, USB input, and an additional 12-volt power outlet. This is also where you find the USB cable pass-through to that under center console storage area. On our model, we have this very large and attractive 7-inch multi-information display nestled right between the speedometer and the tachometer. It's this very blue theme, and it's not color changeable, as you can see. So we actually have blue backlighting all around the gauges in the 200, and that is not selectable, so it's always going to be blue. One thing that I found a little bit odd is that for some reason, the speedometer and the tachometer are actually labeled, even though I thought it was pretty obvious which was which. Now you control that LCD with this 5-way button module on the steering wheel. Press to OK, side to side, up and down. Right now we're taking a look at trip computer information. We have trip A and trip B. You can see that we've been averaging a very respectable 25 miles per gallon. After this photo shoot, we have done a decent amount of idling as well as 0 to 60 performance testing. That has dropped our average down from about 26 miles per gallon down to 25. Next, we have the audio screen. Because I have an iPod connected, we don't get any track information, and you can't control the iPod via this screen. We do have track up and down buttons, however, on the steering wheel. If we move over to the radio, right now I've just changed it to Sirius XM satellite radio. You can see we do get Sirius XM information right there. If we move on down to messages, this is where the vehicle would give you warnings or any status updates that it needed to pass along to you. We have setup. This is where you can change some of the options. You can choose what is up here in the upper left or upper right hand screen. You can also choose whether you want the system to display the current gear, what you want to be in the center of that screen right there, and then we go back to the other options. Moving on down, we have a digital speedometer, and we also have a gear display. If we were in drive, we would have to engage these sport paddles, and then as you can see, once this display goes off there, we now have gear displayed right here in the center of the screen. It will flash yellow if the shift is not allowed, and it will tell you which side, of course, is up and down. The next option down is vehicle info, and this is where you'll get things like tire pressure. We also have some additional gauges like coolant temperature, transmission temperature, oil life, as well as battery voltage, and then we cycle right back around to tire pressure. Move on down, we have our driver assistance systems. This will give you the status of the radar cruise control, as well as the lane departure warning and prevention systems. Move on down to fuel economy. This is an instant graph. It will also has a separate average from those two trip computers. So it'll give you current, your range, as well as the rolling averages there. Moving out to the steering wheel, we have this very attractive corporate steering wheel from Chrysler. You'll find this on a wide variety of Chrysler, Ram, Jeep, and Dodge vehicles. Right over here, we have our volume buttons on the back of the steering wheel right over here, track up and down and mode selection on the back of the steering wheel over here. We have the optional shift paddles on our model, plus on this side, down on that side. Our particular model's wheel is wrapped in this very soft leather, which has a luxurious feel to it. If you opt for that premium package, we do get a two-tone steering wheel, which I think is one of the more attractive steering wheels available on the market right now. It's brown on the outside, light beige on the inside, then it has a bronze trim strip that runs right along the circumference of the wheel right there. This button module again controls that multi-information display right there between the speedometer and the tachometer. We have our phone hang-up and pick-up buttons and a voice recognition button right there in the center. Because our model is equipped with the optional radar cruise control system, we have this 8-button module right over here on the right side of the steering wheel. This seems to confuse some people, but let's go over what's going on here, because I think when you understand this, you'll see how useful it is. Below here, we have our radar cruise control buttons. So this turns on and off the radar cruise control system, and then you hit the set button, up, down, cancel, resume, and then you can change the following distance to the vehicle in front of you. If you'd rather have regular cruise control instead of the adaptive cruise control, then you hit this button right here to turn on and off the cruise control system, and then you use, again, these buttons right up here to change your speed, cancel, and resume your cruise control. Now that makes it very easy to switch between standard cruise control and adaptive cruise control, and a lot of the other systems out on the market don't make it that easy to switch from one mode to the other. Usually it's buried deep in your infotainment system right over here. To the left of the driver, we have our headlight controls. We also have our dome light dimmer, as well as our ambient lighting controls. We have our trunk release button right over there, and over here you'll find the window switches. One interesting tidbit is that Chrysler is continuing to use the window switches and door lock buttons, as well as the mirror controls from a Mercedes-Benz E-Class. That's because Chrysler and Mercedes used to be joined at the hip. They aren't anymore, but this is essentially the same button module without the little chrome strips running right across the top of the window switches. On the rearview mirror, you'll find the Assist and the 911 button. This system is now integrated with Uconnect and it operates very similarly to General Motors' OnStar system. Our model does not have the optional sunroof, so we just get a standard sunglass holder right up here, and then we have buttons for the map lights on either side. At 16 cubic feet, this is one of the largest trunks in this segment, very easily able to toss a wide variety of luggage right back here in the cargo area. Now, one thing to keep in mind versus something like a Nissan Altima is that in the Altima, you actually can put a 24-inch roller bag upright in this position and close the trunk lid, and you can't do that in the Chrysler 200. Overall, the 200 scores 9 out of 10 points in my exclusive trunk comfort index. I have to knock 1 point off of this trunk because we don't have a trunk close assist handle either on the inside or on the outside to help you close this trunk lid. That leaves you to grab onto the paint, possibly scratch that, or grab onto something on the inside to help close the trunk lid. Well, that's been our interior and exterior walk around. If you want to know how the 200 drives out on the road, how it's priced, and how it compares to its competition, then go ahead and click that button at the bottom of your screen and you'll be taken on over to part 2 of this review.